My brother tried to sabotage my wedding, but he found a secret that might break the family. I have always suspected my brother James to have a competitive side. However, I never imagined that he would sabotage my wedding plans. I always had the perception that he was the golden child, whereas I always managed to remain in his shadow. But when I got engaged to Erin, I decided that this time, James could not ruin it for me. Things started off with some slight mockery and some comments that were slightly aggressive, suggesting that Erin's ability to fulfill my needs was subpar. I initially realized that this was James being his usual self. However, things took drastic turns. If you are not subscribed to our channel, you may never see these episodes again. On the other hand, if you're subscribed, you can enjoy listening to them, which is what we hope you do the most. Of course, we all love having a good story to pass the time as well. The week immediately preceding the wedding, Erin got an unknown text that claimed I have been disloyal towards him. He decided to bring it up during nighttime one day, and his anger and suspicion was something I did not want to experience. To put it beautifully, my denial was violence that forms in strangling, and what is strangled is the certainty of trust, in this case, of who was doing the sabotage. Because, in fact, James has always been good at manipulating. He has extensive experience being a master. His deceit is crafted in such a manner that only the weak believe the facade. However, the truth is, I possess no evidence to prove it. If there ever was turmoil, things went to a totally different level when I found out that my wedding dress made by our grandmother mysteriously disappeared from the boutique. The store owner was adamant that it was picked up, but none of my family or friends had ever touched it. Erin's suit was lost the next after being dropped off at the dry cleaners. I went to drop off the rest of the clothes and found out that I no longer had any clothes left. I could tell that was all a setup, but kept quiet. My mother put the blame on luck. The rest of my family knew exactly how competitive James was and did not want to tip the scales, knowing how much rage he had within him, especially when there was a chance to show defeat against his little sister. James's dreams came true, and with the person he loved. I feared that his rage would eventually get directed towards Erin. But having tasted defeat so many times in life, I was not about to let this one go. The wedding will happen. On the eve of the rehearsal dinner, I heard James talking to someone on the phone and overheard parts of his conversation which frightened me. She doesn't know yet. When she finds out, it will destroy everything. Now, it was clear to me that James was deliberately being uncooperative, and for what reason? I could only speculate. There was something mentioned a lot during the call, and that was Dad. How could our father, who passed away 2 years ago, factor in? What secret was so horrible that it could shatter my entire life? I could no longer hold my tongue, so I approached James, feeling my heart race. What are you trying to achieve? I want to know what this is all about and what purpose it serves. With that smug grin of his, James always felt as if he was one step ahead. You'll find out soon enough, Liz, he said chillingly. But trust me, you won't like it. Before I could ask him anything else, he turned his back to me, which seemed to add to the weight of questions I felt floating around my head. My wedding was less than 2 days away, and all I could focus on was the mystery that James had chosen to hold over my head. What could be so horrible that he would rather sabotage my wedding just to keep it under wraps? Then it dawned on me. If James was talking about my father, then it surely had to do with my father's estate. Everything post his death had fallen into my mother's lap, but I always felt like there was something dark lurking underneath. Was James hiding something about the inheritance? Or worse yet, had my father lived a double life? What was I meant to believe? My brother was unerringly malicious, but this felt like it was deeper than that. It was painfully clear that whatever he was intending to do, it was not solely to ruin my wedding. It was much worse than that, and it was something that stood to tear our family apart forever. I couldn't go to sleep that night. I was fixated on how there were so many gaps in my memories of James and Dad's interactions. I had too many memories of my father's will to forget anything. Why did James try so hard to help Mom with the estate? Why did he become distant after Dad's death? The ticking clock made me realize that I was left with 3 options. Avoid the wedding and deal with the fallout at a later point, confront James with everything I had beforehand, or address him after the ceremony. What if the scandal James so carefully concealed was too severe? That was not my concern. All I wanted was the entire truth, and as far as I was concerned, the wedding could simply be delayed. I would confront my mother. If there was anyone who could have explanations for my worries, it would be her. But the moment I stepped into her house, her body language suggested otherwise. She looked shaky and nervous. Mom, what has been going on with James? I asked while trying to keep my voice calm. He has been acting weird, and I heard him saying something about Dad. For a second, Her face became pale, and she ended up gripping on the tea cup in her hand just a bit too tightly. Elizabeth, you have to concentrate on your wedding. Whatever James is doing is simply sibling rivalry. He's always harbored jealousy towards you. Her excuse was far from convincing. I knew that there was no way something was right. Mom, please. This is not just about the wedding. James is keeping something from us, and I have a feeling it concerns Dad. After a long pause, she said something, her shoulders declining as if there was an internal burden weighing down on her. You are right, she finally admitted. There is something that you don't know. Something that I hoped would never have to see the light of the day. My heart started racing in my chest. I knew I was not prepared for all of this. What is it? It's regarding your father, her voice shaking. She continued. There was someone else? Jesus. Of course she had to deliver this shocking of information. She truly has some nerve. What do you mean, someone else? Now, she could no longer bring herself to look me in the eyes. Your father had another family, Elizabeth. A woman, and then another child. I could feel the room literally spin around me as I struggled to grasp the information I just received. Another family? Another child? How long have they been at this? Does James know? That's what James has been hiding, she sobbed, blood weeping as her face crumpled further. He found out after your father died. The other woman reached out to him and informed him that her son was entitled to some of the inheritance. My stomach churned. And you are telling me you knew all this time? You never thought it best to tell me? I thought it was over, she said, completing breaking down. I thought we could try and keep it under wraps, but James, he has never been able to handle that. He has been trying to figure out a way to deal with it ever since. Now the pieces of the puzzle came together for me. The sabotage, the lies, James' loathing for Aaron. James didn't care about the wedding. He cared about the drowning secret, and now he wants to pull me down with him. But there was one more question burning in my mind. Who was this other family? That answer needed to be discovered. James would not be getting in my way this time. My chest was burdened by the weight of my mother's revelation. The man I had idolized my entire life had been living a lie. A second family. A secret brother. And James knew this entire time, harboring that bitterness inside him and quietly letting it tear him apart. But why now? Why go so far as to ruin my wedding? Was it jealousy or something more? Where are they? I asked, my voice straining with barely suppressed rage. Where's this so-called family? Mom hesitated, guilt flooding her expression. They live in the same city. The woman, her name is Linda. Her son is named Matthew. He's a little younger than you and James. Matthew. My father had a son and I never knew. I stormed out whilst ignoring Mom's calls for me to come back. My head was spinning with rage and betrayal, but one thing is clear. James cannot dictate this narrative. I need to speak to him before he decides to ruin my wedding. I sent Aaron a message, telling him that I needed some time alone before everything went down, and then headed directly to James' place. I was no longer concerned about the image I was trying to build. At the moment, the marriage was the last thing on my mind. He appeared smug, as though he knew what my visit was all about. And when he opened the door, that's how it looked to me. You spoke with Mom, huh? He closed his arms. I know everything, I snapped. Dad's other family, the betrayal, the yes. What in the world is wrong with you, James? Why could you not have just told me before trying to ruin my wedding instead? James' expression hardened. You would not get it. You have always had it the good way. The perfect little daughter that Dad wanted. The one who didn't have to struggle for his approval like I did. His words felt like cold water splashed on my face. Are you serious? This is not about Dad's approval. This is about you keeping a secret that impacts both of us. Suppose why are you doing this? Because I don't trust you, James said cold. You do not deserve the truth. You do not deserve the inheritance. Why do you have to get half of everything when there is someone out there who needs it more? It took me a second to comprehend what he was saying. Matthew, you want Dad's estate to go to his? James' silence was all the confirmation I needed to understand. My chest started tightening as rage exploded underneath. Do you think Matthew deserves the inheritance more than me? After everything that's happened, the lies, the betrayal, you seem to favor the son he had behind our backs. James gaped at me, his expression full of rage. You don't understand, Liz. He never wanted any of it. Matthew grew up with no father, unlike you and I, who had everything. I'm trying to fix all of this, but you just want to ignore it like it never happened. I stood there completely unmoving. I expected jealousy or anger, but not violence. Definitely not this miscalculated justice of sorts. And you thought that my wedding is how you set things straight? I said with bitterness. James combed his fingers through his hair in irritation. I was not attempting to sabotage your wedding. Aaron is a great guy, and I didn't want him to be pulled into this situation. He deserves to find out what type of family he's planning to marry into. I shook my head in disbelief. So you send him texts with no context, create a scenario where I am the untruthful one, and get rid of my wedding dress? That's your way of protecting him? James didn't respond. He simply gazed at the ground, as though he was disappointed in himself, yet completely unwilling to confront that reality. I am not backing down, James, I stated. I am getting married at the end of the day, and I am not standing by while this secret ruins my life. If Matthew wishes to be part of our family, so be it. But I will not allow the mistakes from my father dictate my future. I thought for a brief second I might have seen something flash in James' eyes. Regret, perhaps. But just as quickly, it vanished. Feel free to do whatever you want, I told him with a sulking tone, devoid of enthusiasm. Just don't say that I didn't warn you. In the event that everything blows up in your face, I will not stand with you while you are bemoaning the situation. I exited his apartment feeling no more at ease than when I entered. The hidden truth came to light, but it had only escalated my problems. Now, I had to find a way to deal with the fact that my father had betrayed all of us and that my brother, in his misguided form of loyalty, had attempted to shatter everything. While headed back home, my phone vibrated. It was Aaron. We need to talk. I have something new that I need to discuss with you. My heart sank. Has James gotten to him already? I got to Aaron's place feeling soggy on the inside. I was anxious because I had no clue what James could have told him, and I was not ready for another shocker. Knowing Aaron, he rarely looks serious. But when he does, you know something is off. Sure enough, he was sitting on the couch looking far more serious than I have ever seen him. Now that I was so full of adrenaline, I could even feel my eyes twitch. So many thoughts were running through my mind, but I wanted to hear what he had to say without interrupting with my questions.